Hi everyone, my name is Dr. Christina Beer and I'm the Senior Research Scientist here at LifeVantage. I want to take a few minutes today to talk to you about our Omega Plus and why everyone should supplement with an omega-3 fatty acid. By the way, I'm going to use the words fats and fatty acids interchangeably. When it comes to fat, not all fats are created equal. We hear about saturated fats, trans fats, polyunsaturated fats, good fats, bad fats, triglycerides, cholesterol, LDL, HDL, omega-3, omega-6, and the list can go on, and it's very confusing. The difference between all these fats is the way they're put together and the backbone they're attached to. They must be attached to a backbone to be chemically stable and easy to transport throughout the body. A fatty acid is a chain of carbon molecules that are bound together to create a long chain. Something like this. These black balls are carbons, and these white links right here is the chemical bond by which they're attached. This chain can be 2 carbon long, 1, 2, or it can be as long as 40 carbons long. One of the ends is attached to a backbone. So, why are these carbon chains or fatty acids so important? Well, let's back up a little bit and talk about cells and the membrane that surrounds each cell. A cell is surrounded by something called a lipid bilayer. It's a biological membrane that consists of 2 layers of fat molecules. Something like this. Each fat is composed of a purple stick, which is the fatty acid tail, and a water-loving head, this white ball right here. The 2 layers are put together like this. This is the outside of the cell, and this is the inside of the cell. And this is the most chemically and physically energy stable way of making a lipid bilayer, since fat attracts fats. So every cell in our body has this lipid bilayer. Every mitochondria in our cell has a lipid bilayer. And every nucleus that contains our DNA is surrounded by this lipid bilayer. But there's also other things associated with this layer. They contain specialized proteins that are embedded in this bilayer. They contain transportation channels, and they also might have identification markers on the outside of the surface. All these extra structures gives the cell its function, so it can turn into a kidney cell, a liver cell, a heart cell, a brain cell, etc. So, a healthy cell membrane or a lipid bilayer membrane has a fluidity about itself. It kind of moves around, and it's not stiff, but it kind of moves around. In a healthy cell membrane, we want to see this. Why? Because it allows for essential functions to occur. The main function of a cell membrane is to separate the interior from the exterior. It regulates what nutrients enters into the cell and what allows the waste to exit out of the cell. It allows communication between cells, and it has specialized sites on the outside of cells that allows for cell signaling. It's essential for homeostasis or balance in our body. One type of fatty acid we want to see incorporated into the lipid bilayer is omega-3 fatty acids. When you look at the 2 most known and researched omega-3 fatty acids, EPA and DHA, they look a little different than the straight chain I just showed you. Here's the straight chain. This chain has 20 carbons put together in a straight chain. But look what happens when you add alter some of these bonds between the carbons. This is EPA. EPA is just an abbreviation of its chemical name. You can see the difference. Both these chains have the same amount of carbons, but EPA has something called double bonds. The first double bond starts at the third carbon from the end. Omega is the last letter in the Greek alphabet, and therefore the end is called omega. So omega-3, it has something called a double bond. EPA has 5 double bonds. And this previously straight chain now becomes kinked, or it rotates somewhat. Now look at DHA. DHA has 22 carbons and 6 double bonds. And the first carbon again, first double bond again starts on the carbon, on the omega end on the third carbon, so it becomes an omega-3. See how it rotates even more? So when they're incorporated into this lipid bilayer, it allows for space in the membrane and fluidity to occur. And this is crucial and what we want in a healthy cell membrane. Did you know that one of the most significant nutritional deficits is in omega-3 fatty acids? Our cells are in constant need of replenishing these fatty acids inside the layer because they're released from the bilayer by internal or external triggers participate in various essential reactions. Even the American Heart Association says that we need to eat more fatty fish to get the good fats. What are good fats? Well, omega-3 is one of them, and it's an essential fatty acid. It's crucial that we obtain them through our diet or that we supplement with an omega-3 because our bodies can't make them. We know that omega-3s are good for heart health, but let's look at why they're also important for the brain. The brain contains about 100 trillion neurons. Neurons is a fancy word for nerve cells, and they all have this lipid bilayer. Here's the interesting fact. 60% of the brain tissue is fat. And of that 60%, around 40 of that is DHA. That's almost half of the brain fat is DHA. Did you know that infant formula must contain a certain amount of DHA? So there's a lot of scientific research out there to support the need for DHA and healthy brain development. There are also over 60 different types of neurotransmitters in the brain that need to communicate with nerve cells for events to occur. A neurotransmitter is a small chemical molecule that goes back and forth between the nerve cells. These neurotransmitters allow the nerve cells to actively communicate with one another. So, we need to have a cell membrane that is healthy and functions at its best. We want the cell membrane to have this fluidity and not be stiff to allow for all these essential reactions to occur. With a healthy membrane, cell communication will be optimized and we can perform at its best. We already know that omega-3 consumption helps with heart health, cardiovascular health, and healthy blood pressure already in the normal range. It also supports cognitive health, supports a healthy immune system, and helps protect your cells by allowing cell signaling. As I mentioned earlier, omega-3 is one of the most nutritional deficiencies that we see in the Western world. We simply don't eat enough fatty fish. You can increase your intake by supplementing with our Omega Plus so that you can flip the switch on